Well, hello everybody. This is Tim Green with Rattle Magazine. Welcome to Poetry Spawn Live. Thanks so much for joining us. It's our Sunday morning open mic exploring current events through the lens of poetry. Before we begin, I should say Rattle is a publication of the Rattle Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit working to promote the practice of poetry. We just do this because we love poetry. We know you love poetry too, so please let the computers know and click on the like button or share and subscribe. If you haven't done any of that yet, do it right now. It's really helpful. Our goal here is to spread poetry around the world and get more people reading and writing and sharing their views of the world that way. And it really helps if you click something. So click the like button, give us a heart, give us a review, whatever your platform you're watching this on. You can do something to help out, and I'd appreciate that if you do it now. Now, as always, Poetry Spawn Live is an open mic mostly for poems about events that have happened in this week or relate to the news cycle somehow. And how to join, you can go to, I'll put the numbers up on screen right now. Email your poem first to openmic@rattle.com so I can show it on screen as you read. If you submitted it already through Submittable as part of the submission process, you don't have to do that. But if you've revised it since then or you haven't submitted it yet, email it to me at openmic@rattle.com. And then you have your choice. You can either go over video through Skype, send me a chat message to Rattle Poetry, all one word. Just say hi, I'll wave back, and then I'll call you up when the time is right, when it's your turn. If you'd like to call in by phone, the number is 818-850-7727. Just let it ring a few times, then hang up. It'll put you on my call list, which is kind of how you sign up for the open mic here. So I'll call you back when it's your turn, and that's how we do it. So looking forward to sharing a whole bunch of poems. Now we have today's poet on the line, Clemence Hurd from San Antonio, Texas. Has this poem, All My Stresses Live in Texas. And let's welcome Clemence right now. Let me pull you in the screen here. Clemence, hey, how you doing?
Hey, Tim. I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing good. I mean, I feel guilty being so comfortable here in California with so much going on down there in Texas. What's the situation like now? Is it the power in your poem or note? You mentioned the power came back on after like one day. But what's the situation like down there?
Yeah, it was off and on, but it came back. It stayed on since then, and my neighborhood went out, but the adjacent neighborhood was totally fine. Went to a few grocery stores the other day, and I mean there were a few lines, but they were stocked. Water was stocked, and so it could be so much worse. I've read some horror stories thus far. So.
Well, it's weird the way the news media works. I always think about it because we had a big fire come through here in the mountains where I live, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, and it was like the big headline news story for like a day or two. It was all the news was talking about, every news channel, in a similar way that this is going on in Texas. And then after 2 days, they just move on to the next story, and you don't see any follow up. It's like where the excitement is, and then there's nothing about the follow up, the cleanup. And so you had a pipe burst in your place too, right?
Yeah, I did. I wasn't there when it burst. I was actually the next day, but that night before I wrote the poem, whenever the fire happened, I was, sleeping in my car. And so I don't know when the pipe burst, but it wasn't whenever I was in there. But my water wasn't working anyway, so.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's good. Mean, if your pipe's going to burst, a low pressure day when everyone else's pipe's bursting, I guess, is the best time. And then the poem is really about the Texas power grid. Just for people who don't understand the situation and what what's been going on there. Can you just explain a little bit about what really caused the problem in the first place?
Well, yeah, there's a few things. I mean, one, it's a decades-old problem. There are three power grids in the U.S., and, the East, the West, and then there's the Texas power grid. And so it's just old technology, really. That's the main thing. But also, I mean, with so many people trying to use so much energy at the same time, and then, energy generators being out, it just happens. It causes the shutdown every time. And so what I read was we were close to being months without power. And so it could have been even worse than it is now, had some of the actors not moved when they moved. But yeah, I mean, it's a mess. I mean, like I said, I've read so many horror stories, and Dallas, like nursing homes in Dallas, and like the roof caving in, and it's just it's really bad. I mean, whenever you hear that people are dying from hypothermia in
Mhm.
Texas, it's like, wait, what's happening? So,
Yeah, it's crazy, and weirdly, it's similar to stuff that happens here with the fires.
mhm, mhm.
The infrastructure, the power lines that run through flammable areas in California are old and outdated and fall over easily and start fires. That Paradise
Right,
Fire, which
right.
burned a whole town down, was caused by just a down power line. And there've been bills and stuff, and people trying to get updates and renovations, and bury lines where they should be buried, and harden things where they need to be hardened, and we're just
Mhm,
not doing it. And so we have these power rolling blackouts now, where if it gets too windy, they just shut the power off. Which at least
mhm.
it's not freezing.
Right.
It's the climate's nice here. You could live outside in a tent if you have to. You don't freeze. But just not taking care of things is something that we're really good at. It seems in this country.
Yeah, more commonly now, right? Like that's all we're seeing. It's just, mishap after mishap, where we're not ready. I was reading an article and it was comparing climate change to climate resilience, and it was talking about how prepared Biden is for the future, but how we're going to have to develop some type of climate resilient plan right
Hmm.
now because
Yeah.
it's just how urgent it is, right? Um,
Yeah, for sure. It's just tough. I mean, we look, our world is based on looking, one quarter ahead in our profit earnings instead of 20 years into the future of what's going to happen.
yeah,
But you just moved down to Texas, right? Like really recently? Because I noticed in our
yeah,
database, we still had you in Wisconsin.
yeah. I moved down in late August
Hmm.
and been kind of back and forth. I went to Wisconsin. I was in New Orleans. This was all recent, but yeah, Texas is my home now, and so some adjusting. I mean, I walked outside yesterday, and people were in restaurants, no mask.
Oh,
Just
wow. Yeah.
and I know that part of it is people are exhausted and
Hmm.
they want to get out from COVID, but also, I mean, then you put this storm on top of it, and you have people who are just like, I have to, I have to leave. And like, I get being outside, but
Hmm.
it's just, yeah, I mean, I think enough people have died so far, right? We don't need any more, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, I always feel like we're living in like Noah's Ark reruns, like
Mm.
plan, get prepared, and then nobody does.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Or we just get, we do, but like, can we maintain that though? Like
mhm.
how consistent can we be, and what's our stamina really look like?
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's hear the poem. This is All My Stresses Live in Texas. Why don't you go ahead and read it?
All right. All my stresses live in Texas. Now I've seen everything. Ivy sagged like an IV neck, lacing the windows of the burning house. Snow killing my neighbor's cacti in their terracotta pots, dwarfing the one my friend sent a picture of, lampshading a pillar candle cordoned off by a couple of cinder blocks that would help heat his house in a blackout if it wasn't 10,000 square feet smaller. Transformer state senator feels no way about the system he helped deregulate over 2 decades ago. Says he's only lost power twice since then, and notes how, hunched over, he makes coffee in his fireplace. I counted 2 rats sniffing around my cracked porch, curled inside my idling sedan. I spoke to Wisconsin, whose aide she smelled gas the same time I smelled burning wires and thought it was my battery I hadn't replaced before I left the Midwest. How I'd wished it wasn't the alternator, as it was in the negatives that day, and I have to take so much out to get to the problem.
Yeah, I just love love that ending. I have to take so much out to get to the problem. Ain't that the truth?
Thank you.
I forgot. I was going to ask you about the hyphens in the poem that sort of break up the text in a bunch of places. I mean, I sort of had an interpretation myself of what you were doing there, but what were you thinking going? What were you going for with that stylistic choice?
Yeah, well, I mean, always thinking about the line as as many meanings as possible, but also thinking about a stress. So the stress of syllable, like what are we putting the emphasis on? And so like thinking about how many stresses can we, can we really bear, right? Like how much can we hold? And how, that relates to what's going on right now, right? Like how much can we really hold?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the way that they sort of you don't know when they're coming, so they kind of interrupt the way that like disasters interrupt.
Hmm.
Like they interrupt
Hmm.
the line in that way, and yeah, and stress too. It's sort of a buried in metaphor in there, which I loved in that poem.
Thank you.
So thanks so much for sharing it. And then
Thanks,
and you have
Tim.
a book coming out. You mentioned right before we went online. Do you want to say a little bit about what that is? We have a poem, I think, from the book. I assume 99
Yeah.
coming up in our summer issue. Do you want to
Hmm.
just say what the book is, and hopefully we'll have you on the fall to do the book. But yeah, let everybody know about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, the book is called Tragic City, and it's on the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre and how even today it grips, it grips Greenwood, it grips Tulsa. So that's what it is. And yeah, hopefully I can come back in October and we can do this.
Yeah, well, everybody can keep an eye on your website, which is Clemence Herd, ClemonCE, then herd like herd.com.
Mhm.
Everybody can keep an eye on that for when the book comes out. It's coming out in October, I think you said, right?
Yes, October 10th.
Awesome, cool. So keep a lookout for that, and we'll have you on the Rattlecast as a guest when it comes out too. So looking forward to that. Thanks, Clemence.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it.
Yep, yep, and stay dry and safe there.
Definitely. I'm gonna just keep listening and I want to hear the open mic, so I'll
Cool,
be here.
cool. Thanks. Bye.
Peace.
Okay, yeah, that was Clemence Herd with his poem "All My Stresses Live in Texas." Really layered. There's a lot of. If you read that poem, there's a lot of stuff in there. Let's take a look at the other poem we picked for a different view of the snow. I thought it was an interesting contrast. We have a Tuesday poem too. Anne DeVilbiss is the poet here. She could not join us today, but let's just play this poem, and I'll read what she wrote too. About this big snowy weather that's moved through so much of the country with a cold, the polar vortex getting so low. Why is this a little off? Let me tighten something. There we go. The polar vortex getting cold so low. A lot of snow in places that don't usually see a lot of snow this week. And about that, Anne DeVilbiss says, snowy weather is fraught. A fraught thing for many. Dangerous to houseless people and drivers and any creature who needs heat to survive. But I also love snow viscerally. And living in Kentucky means I hardly ever get to enjoy it. Last week's snowy weather felt like an incredible gift during a rough time, a moment of beauty to transform the world so we all had something new to look at for a while. Even as I anxiously checked on family in Texas to make sure they were doing okay without power, I walked and walked through the drifts feeling happy. Joy is always complicated by the edges of disaster, but I still try to clutch it when I can. So that was Anne DeVilbiss's note, and let's look at give a listen to Anne's poem here before we get to the open lines. Here it is. This is a prayer for snow.
Prayer for snow. Coat this ugly world in tumbled ice cream so I can glut my eyes on something pretty, tromp endless, forgetting the existence of toes. Give it loud sunlight if it has to leave, sent off in a parade of blue heat to merry grace every storm sewer with trilled tongues bright as new pennies, waterfall of coins rushing underground. I swear, if I can just have this one day of perfect scenery, I'll stop complaining for at least 2, stop reminding you of stacking bodies, evil lofted on a flagpole, charging down what's good to leave it trampled, fleeting as snow flees when the sun pretends to bring us light.
Yeah, just I don't know. I thought it was a great add a little beauty and joy into the world, which poetry very often, since it's sort of a problem-solving tool, I always think of it. It's a way to understand problems in the world and to make sense of chaos, and so it's much easier to have negative poems than poems that try to find the positive in negative things. And so I don't know. I thought that was a good poem to share. That would be Tuesday's poem. So a preview for everybody watching on Poetry Spawn Live ahead of time. Now let's go to the open mic and let us. Let's see. Let me get everything set up. First, let's call up Nivedita Karthik because it's late over there in India. See what's going on with Nivi. Hello, Nivedita. How are you doing this morning? Or this evening, I should say. I'm good. What do you have to share for us? Let me have to try to find it.
So it's titled Sonnet 18. And it's under this usual opening story.
I'm actually, Nivi, we can't really hear you very well. There's some kind of garbly thing going on. Maybe let's see. Try it again.
Sure.
I think that's a little better. Yeah. Okay.
Is this fine?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah. Okay. So start over. So what's this poem about?
So it's again one of my usual weird news stories.
Actually, let me call and hang up. I don't know what's going on, but the audio is not clear enough to hear. Okay. Let's try it. Maybe this will get. But oops. Let me know to the phone. Okay. Let's try this again. Let's see if the connection's better this time. Are you there, Nivi?
I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better, I think. Yeah.
Okay, is this better?
It's still a little weird. It's a little like warbly. But let's just deal with it. So Sonnet 18 is what you have. And what's it about?
Yes. So it's basically about how these citizens in a place called Lakewood in Ohio, they saw this pizza delivery guy coming through on his van. And literally, like, everybody on the road moved their vehicles to the side to give way for the pizza delivery guy to go through, saying it's very important that people get warm pizza on time. And I was like, how awesome is that? Weird, but I mean, awesome. Everybody loves a warm pizza. Nobody wants it cold. So hats off to them for actually thinking of and doing that. So this Sonnet 18, I basically sort of bought. So I was reading a bit of Shakespeare yesterday, and I was like, I clubbed that with this. And Sonnet 18 is basically, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? So loosely based on that, the structure and everything, but about pizza technically.
That's great. Yeah, you always find the best stories. I don't know how you do it. Okay, let's hear this Sonnet 18.
Sonnet 18. Shall I describe the perfect pizza pie that is cheesier and thinner doughed? Rough handling makes the crust go flat and dry, and hot from the oven, it goes straight on the road. Sometimes the oven heat chars the cheese, and often imparts a yummy flavor, and every pizza lover's hunger is appeased by the first bite that's just made to be savored. By getting it to us is not hard to do, nor is it as easy as made out to be. I hope the pizza guy can just get through and deliver the pizza right to me. So long as humans live and wish to eat, so long will pizza remain a wondrous treat.
Excellent. Thanks so much for sharing that. I always love light verse as an interlude. Thanks so much for sharing that, Nivi.
Thank you so much for calling me, Jen. Hope you have a lovely Sunday.
Yep. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That was Nivedita Karthik with Sonnet 18. Next, let's call up. We have, I think next in line is Jim Zimmerman. Yeah, Jim Zimmerman. Let's call up Jim and see. And I should let you know I'm calling from the future a little bit. There's a 30-second delay, so make sure you turn off your stream that you're watching when I call you, or else you'll get confused. Hey, Jim, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah. Hello, welcome. I don't see if you want to bring yourself in on the camera, but if not, that's fine too.
One sec.
Okay.
There you go.
Let's see. I don't think you're... Oh, there you go.
How's that?
Yeah, we see you now. Hello, Jim. So where are you calling from? I think you're a first-time
caller.
caller.
I'm calling from New York, around New York.
Great.
Yeah.
And what do you have for us today? What do you have for us today, Jim?
What do I need to do with the echo again?
Oh, turn off the stream that you're watching. So if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, just X out of that, or mute it at least. But otherwise, you'll hear me twice.
Is this better? Is this better?
Yeah, I couldn't hear the echo anyway, but it confuses you. So, as long as you only hear me once, you're good.
Yeah, now I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, so what do you have for us? This is Our Fearless Leader Breaks the Silence.
Calling from the New York area, so I was going to say. I was actually out shoveling this morning, calving glaciers and making an igloo or something like that.
How much snow did you get there?
Well, over the last couple of weeks, it's probably been 2.5 feet, but right now it's only maybe 1.5 feet on the ground. But I figured I'd break up some of the ice. And
did you? Yeah. And you say you're in the New York City area, or just or Western?
Yeah. North of New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what poem do you have for us? Is it Our Fearless Leader Breaks the Silence?
Yeah. It has to do with our previous fearless leader, whose name I can't even pronounce anymore, but who started to come out of hiding this week. And
see, I didn't know that, and I don't want to know that. I must have read 50,000 poems with that man's name in it, and I like that you're not using his name because I'm tired of hearing it.
I use the initials in the epigram. I have to the epigraph. The poem is Our Fearless Leader Breaks the Silence, and the epigraph is "We will be back in some form," which is what he actually said. So here's how it goes. Yeah. Indeed, I will rise again, being of galactic proportion, a black hole to draw you in, suck your vision dry, a botfly to burrow beneath your skin, a cottonmouth with fangs of feral ferocity to poison dreams of life without me, beyond me. And I will wrap myself around your newfound freedom like kudzu vines, weaving with knotted rope a net over your hope-stained cheeks, your uplifted arms. I will wear a mask of lies to keep me safe from the in-breath of truth, and I will build a wall to shield me from the arid borderlands of shame.
Yeah, thanks so much for that. It was Jim Zimmerman with Our Fearless Leader Breaks the Silence. And I don't know, it's one of those poems, once you see that quote, the poem kind of starts writing itself, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it did.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Jim. A pleasure.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep. Have a good day.
You too.
Yeah, we will be back in some form. All right. Let's see. Danny Mass. Let's call Danny, see how he's doing today. Hey, Danny, how's it going?
I'm doing good. Doing really good today. I was recovering from my second shot.
Oh, yeah. Which vaccine did you get?
Moderna.
I think that's the best one right now. That's good.
I just still have some flu-like symptoms from Tuesday. Still, it's like.
Well, the immune system, the immune system's working. Now, that's good news. You don't want. I think the one worry about the vaccines is that I think to me that maybe if it gets too warm, that RNA breaks apart and then it didn't work and you don't know. So if you get the symptoms, I think that's something to look for.
Well, I'm good to go then.
Yeah, that's great. So what poem do you have for us?
Well, I hate to tell you this, but I'm going to piggyback on Jim's poem.
Oh, no. How many times I said we're done with these Trump poems? And I'm not even exaggerating when I say 50,000. Like, there were like 100 a week for 4 years.
I know. I feel your pain. After doing the ekphrastic poem thing, I know you. Well, we go through 450 of those.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote this a while back, and it seems more relevant today because, like Jim said, 45 is coming out of hiding next week, and he's going to be speaking at the CPAC. And so if you've ever seen his handwriting, that's what really – his handwriting is just unbelievably bad, and that's what this poem is about, really, is how he presents himself to the world. Is I think how your handwriting is kind of indicative of who you are.
Yeah.
So that's how this got started.
Okay, well, let's hear it. Sign Maker. Go ahead.
Did you get it? Sign
I got
Maker?
it right here. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is one of my better poems, and
Good.
I think
Looking
it
forward to
really speaks to, without speaking, it speaks. That grinning white man missing one big hand to a hissing chainsaw is out there, rubbernecking after his accident. He's waving his handless stump in the air, silently pacing, waiting, the entire morning for his detour traffic to return from anywhere. And all at once, he's gone. His repeated broken brush of words, painted blamelessly with just one good hand. His crudely scrawled signs with black letters, shot with noise, nailed to a tree.
Excellent. Sign Maker. Thanks so much for sharing that, Danny. And you know, for all the sort of joking around, I'm sick of Trump, he is a fascinating character, at least psychologically. And I think that the signature is one sort of manifestation of that, but just the constant sort of need for chaos and attention, you know, like
yeah, signature. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, he's such a strange, interesting person psychologically, at least. It'd be nice.
I promise I won't hand in any more poems about him. Okay, this is it.
Yeah, well, really, I mean, every time we say, like, oh, there's a moratorium on this poem, the same thing happened after, like, 9/11. We had so many 9/11 poems. And, you know, every time I'd say, this must be the last 9/11 poem that we published, then there's another one that comes from a different angle. And it really is, you know, stuff, you never run out of stuff. The world is so complicated and interesting that you can keep going on for a long time with some crazy person like Trump. Anyway, thanks, Danny.
You bet, pal. Thanks for your work.
Yeah, my pleasure. Have a good one.
See ya. You too.
That was Danny Mask with Sign Maker. Let's see. We have a 914 first-time caller. Let's try that. I don't know who that's going to be. And we'll see if anybody asks me to read it. It might be a short show this week, which is good because I'm going to play tennis. Hate to rub it into all the snow, buried people, but it's actually really nice here. And the courts are finally clear of snow. Hello, this is Tim with Rattle. Can you hear me? Let's see. Oh, I hear myself in the background. So turn that off first, and then and I'll bring you in. Oh, we lost you. 914, we lost you. I'll try. I'll call back the 914 in a second. We definitely had you. Just turn off your stream in the background. So wherever you're watching that, just X out of that window, or turn off your phone or whatever. And just talk to me through the call and nothing else, because otherwise there's the 30-second delay, which gets confusing. We have Spartacus. Let's see who that is. Poem to read from Carlton Johnson coming up.
Hi, Tim.
Hey, this is Spartacus?
Yes, that's me.
Hey, thanks. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Bristol, UK.
Excellent. And let me resize you right. There you go. And so, always great to have first-time callers. So what do you have for us today?
I have prepared a poem about Etna, a volcano in Sicily, and I have put it in Submittable. It would be great if you could read it. I have put some Latin inside. It's a phrase from Pliny. Fortune always favors the brave, when he was trying to save his friend there from the eruption.
So you'd like me to read it instead of you?
Yes, please.
Okay, sure. Here, I'll put it up and I'll read it. This is do you want to just listen on the stream and hang up?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, sure, my pleasure. Yeah, so this was Spartacus Anagnostaros. And this is a poem. Let me see if there's a note. Etna always captured my imagination with its stories. Every time I'm thinking about Etna, I find myself discussing the unity of opposites in the universe. Etna is both the creator and the destroyer. Its existence depends on the coexistence of good and evil, light and darkness, life and death. And of course, let me show you a picture. There's some great pictures, and terrifying pictures too, of Mount Etna off in the Mediterranean erupting. Maybe I can Let's see, I'll show you on the screen. Here's Mount Etna erupting. This happened Thursday morning. Will this play or we'll do an ad? If this plays, we'll play a little video too. No, we're going to do an Audi ad. Yeah, let's not do that. But anyway, that is Mount Etna erupted. And this is Spartacus's poem, Mama Etna, Mama Mia. Mama Etna, with your unique primitive audio-visual code, you record life messages. Your supernatural breath, with hot clouds of smoke and snow, wipes out the sky of the ancient city and land that lives in myths. The creator of the thunder of Zeus, Hephaestus, claims this land, like Typhoon and Enceladus and the Cyclops. Also, the people who question their nature claim in her womb the cradle of their eternity. Their immortality rests in the necropolis, a city under the gates of stars. Mama Etna cares in her silence and absence. Her hot blood boils and becomes a red river that blends her erotic spirit with the future of the green vineyards, the shelters of the sacred juice of Dionysus. Their union is a delusion. From it springs life and death, chaos and creation, end and beginning. Don't be deluded by this lucid and infinite nymph from the primordial earth. When Etna whispers motherly or erotic words, the night sleeps lightly, echoing Pliny's words. Fortis fortuna iuvat, Mama Etna, fortune favors the brave ones, when life springs from death. So there's like Mama Etna, Mama Mia by Spartacus Anagnostaros. And there's sort of a theme in this episode having to do, we'll get to my Saiku at the end, relates to this too. And we mentioned Noah's Ark randomly. There's one theory that Mount Etna, an eruption in Mount Etna, caused a landslide, and then tsunami, which was the cause of the Noah's Ark myth, actually. And there's actually a shelf there that could landslide again. And if it does during an eruption or an earthquake, could cause a huge tsunami throughout the entire Mediterranean. It'd be a huge, on the scale of the Sumatra tsunami, except in the Mediterranean, and maybe even worse in some places since the water's shallower and, the dynamics of that. So it's erupting now in a beautiful and frightening way. Thanks for sharing that, Spartacus, and taking us there. Let's see. So Carlton Johnson had a poem for us too. This is Fed Up by Carlton Johnson. I'll read this too, and then I'll try that 914 number again. Fed up. Texans are steamed, frosted at lacking heat, potable water, and adequate creature comforts. The mind can't capture the cold, the fear, the bitter resolve growing in hearts of small children, huddling under a dozen blankets. High up above, on another plane, a silken chute unfurls, warming the descent of a rotor combo, so cold even Texas is warmer. Now our reach across the chasm of space fills up with a measure of hope for a future of tomorrow full of solar panels and signs of life. Great ending there. Thanks, Carlton Johnson. That's Fed Up by Carlton Johnson. I think Carlton's in Florida. So doesn't have to worry about the cold that much. The one place in the country that's been spared this winter. Let's see what else we have. Rydberg, yeah. Make sure we're streaming good too. Okay. Let's do Shirley. I think it's Shirley Hilton. I think I typoed it. But let's try Shirley Hilton. And I remember Shirley sent a poem this week. Let's find it.
Hello, this is Shirley.
Hey, Shirley. How you doing today?
I'm good, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a great way to start the day with some poetry. What do you want to share?
It is. I've been trying to join you on Skype, but I haven't used Skype for like 5 years. And,
oh, yeah.
And so I'm sure it's user error. I couldn't figure out how to connect.
Actually, if you haven't used it I should let everybody know who's watching these that Skype had a big update like 2 years ago where the old version doesn't work anymore. They upgraded everything. So if you have an old version, you have to uninstall it, then install the new version in order to get it to work. So that's probably the problem.
Oh, good to know. I
Yeah.
thought I had, because I wasn't using it, so I got rid of it. I thought I had, but I'll try again. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. But it's great. We're over the phone too. It's just great hearing people and sharing their poems. So what do you have for us? This is Across to Bear. What's it about?
Yeah, everybody's eyes were on Texas, at least in the United States. It seems like we didn't get any world news this week. We always tend to zero in on ourselves. I guess that's human. Yeah, I had some fun. When you were talking about poems going negative or positive, and I reread this poem this morning, I thought, ouch, that's kind of mean. But actually, I had a lot of fun writing it. Just it was the irony of the whole situation was just beyond me. Anyway, so this is about Ted Cruz and his escape and then return.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We had a bunch of good poems about Ted Cruz. Actually, it was tough to choose which one to pick.
Oh, I'm sure. Anyway, sometimes we human beings are ridiculous. What we do. Anyway, do you have the poem there?
Yeah, I have it up. So go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Oh, okay, good. Across to Bear. The flight attendant said, "In case of emergency, put on your own mask first." And so he did, hoping no one would recognize his eyes or his height or his flaunting of privilege. But they did. And so he attempted to hide behind his daughters, though they proved too young, too innocent. Perhaps we would believe their mother was unable to manage 2 children on a flight to the beach, she being, after all, only 48 and college educated. Still, a lot to expect of a Harvard graduate. Who is that masked man, you might ask? His name means cross. And he left a freezing, waterless people with a heavy cross to bear. It was, after all, an emergency. It was, he said, a mistake. Maybe this is a time for truth. Is this his promise for America?
Excellent. Thanks so much for sharing that. It was such a, I don't know. I mean, that response says so much, I guess.
For those who don't know, Ted Cruz wrote a book that was a bestseller, as many politicians write books to get attention. And the name of his book is A Time for Truth.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Reigniting his promise for America. And I thought, really? Is this your promise for America? It was just, the irony was not lost on me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Shirley. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yep, you too. Okay. Yeah, that was Shirley Hilton from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, with Across to Bear. And then we have Sultana Raza coming in. Let's see what Sultana has for us. Try to find it. Hey,
hello,
Sultana. How you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. And you?
I'm doing great. And where are you calling from again? I think you called in once before, right? Or
yeah,
no?
I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know what to do. It's my very first time. So.
Oh, it is your first time. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, you did great. It's perfect. But so where are you calling from? Just so everybody knows where you are.
Yeah. So I'm in Luxembourg, and it's actually dark outside. Luxembourg in Europe. It's a little country.
Yeah, of course.
It's dark outside, but it's still 7:15, so it's not midnight.
Yeah, we actually we have 3 subscribers in Luxembourg, which I always wonder. It's like the size of a city, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is.
So what do you have to share for us today from Luxembourg?
Yeah. So is it like one poem?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I have Nihility. Is that what you wanted to do?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so what's it about? Let us know first.
Yeah. So actually, it's about 2 news topics, two in one, two for the price of one. So as people might know, it's the bicentenary of Keats. He died 200 years ago. And in fact, so you can imagine 200 years ago, he's in a little room in Rome. It's really, really tiny. And unfortunately, because of the kind of medicine they had in those days, he was put on a starvation diet.
Oh, wow.
So he practically died of tuberculosis. And these days, we also have this pandemic with lots of people have breathing problems.
Yeah. Would he not have died if they didn't do that, you think? Or is that the theory?
I think he wouldn't have died because
in
those days when people had tuberculosis, if they were well fed and kept warm, many people recovered in England, for example. Unfortunately, So, well, you can imagine him starving and slowly dying, which is really awful. But I think he's one of the most important poets in English literature, my point of view.
No, that's great.
Yeah. And secondly, unfortunately, all the problems that the Romantics faced, like it was the beginning of industrialization, and pollution and hunger in the world are still here. They haven't gone away, unfortunately. So in India too, the other news item is in India we have all these farmers' protests. You may have heard of them. It became an international issue about 1 week ago. And so they say because of these new kind of reforms, quote unquote, maybe hunger will increase in India, and of course many people are starving in the whole world. So so this poem covers two topics. So shall I start? Or?
Yeah, go ahead whenever. I put it on screen for everybody at home, and go ahead and read it.
Okay. Nihility. Not by their own choice, millions still starve. Bled dry of fresh water are earth's crusty veins. When souls get impoverished, what hope remains? Exploitation and poverty their lives carve. Food for deep thought is getting more scant. Torn by hunger or needless pounding pain, millions of humans are underground lain. Mindless entertainment is mainstream's chant. Does greed unbridled the richest animate? Laces of corruption are free air clasp. Corroding chemicals all contaminate. As pollution ripples, it makes oceans gasp. Is our green utopia still very far? Can it ever be erased by genes modified scar?
Excellent poem. Thanks so much for sharing that. And little Keatsish too. Thanks for sharing it.
You're welcome. Thanks for hosting this this show.
Yeah, it's always my pleasure. Hope you can join us again soon.
Definitely. I'll hang around.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that was Sultana Raza in Luxembourg with Nihility. Let me see. Did somebody else call? Oh, yeah, we have to just try to get back to the 914 and see who that was. This might be the last caller of the day because I have to wrap it up a little early. Let's see. See if this 914 picks up. Hey, this is Tim with Rattle. Shut off the stream in the background, which I hear a little bit, and then we'll be able to just talk, whoever this is.
Tim?
Yeah.
Hi, it's Jim Zimmerman again. Sorry.
Oh, it's Jim Zimmerman.
Wasn't sure which way to contact you, so I tried more than one channel. But
okay. Yeah, no problem.
One real quick thing, which is I'm a psychologist, so I can tell you that the diagnoses that you were cranking up to are absolutely correct. I've been screaming about him for 6 years.
yeah, narcissistic personality disorder. He's a classic,
at least,
textbook
and
sociopath
too.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks.
Yeah, well, take care, Jim, and now we have your phone number too. Either way works great, so you can just pick.
Okay, all right.
Okay, cool. Thanks,
Jim.
Okay,
bye.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, really, if you looked up a textbook definition, that would be Trump in there. Which is why I love that "How I'm Like Donald Trump" poem. The comparison to the Grand Canyon, that empty space, longing to be filled, an inability to feel love. It's kind of the heart of that. Let's see. Do we have anybody else? I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. Let's see. Over here. No, we're good. Good over here. Okay, I think that is it for the show. So that's perfect timing. Now for my Saiku this week, I have two. I'm not sure. Let's see. I'll try to share both of these. This is a topic that I've been very interested in for about 25 years almost. In high school, I took, I don't know if they even still do it, the ACT test, which is sort of like an SAT for science. And I never really heard about this explanation for why the mastodons and mammoths had went extinct 13,000 years ago. And in the reading section for the test, there was like a reading comprehension section. It was about how they were killed by overhunting by humans, and I just thought that was crazy. That is just not possible on multiple levels for multiple reasons. And I remember answering the questions as if that, based on what the article said, but thinking, God, I got to read more on this because there has to be another explanation. So I've been reading other explanations for 25 years. And there's sort of two that it comes down to that are possible. It was definitely climactic shifts. But what caused it is an interesting question. And there's sort of two competing hypotheses that seem still plausible to me. And one is the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, that it was triggered by some kind of comet, probably disrupted by Schul's star, which passed through 80,000 years ago, flung a comet in here, hit the Earth, or a fragment did, hit the Laurentide ice sheet, caused the Missoula floods, killed almost everything in North America, because it wasn't just mammoths and mastodons. It was all the megafauna. 80% of large mammals died. So like you have the mastodons, the mammoths, the saber-toothed tigers, the ground sloths the size of giraffes, the armadillos the size of Volkswagen Beetles, cave bears are like 15 feet tall if they stood up. All those went extinct then. And so there are two articles, and I'm not even sure which one my poem relates to more. So this is from the Max Planck Institute of Chemical Ecology, and over on Science Daily here. Let me put this on screen. Get rid of this stuff. So climate change likely drove the extinction of North America's largest animals. And so this computer modeling says that because before the Younger Dryas, where temperatures fell by like 15 degrees Celsius really, really quickly, this study found that they were actually increasing in their population in the warming period just before, which kind of rules out the idea that humans hunted them out, which is just preposterous to me anyway. But so there was this article, but then even more concerning is this article here. This was because the other explanation, if it wasn't a comet, was that it was the magnetic reversal and solar activity coupled at the same time sent a big coronal mass ejection. And our weakened magnetic field at the time during a geomagnetic excursion left us vulnerable to that, which caused a whole bunch of climactic changes. And that's the one you don't want, because right now our magnetic field is weakening. It's down 30% over the last 50 years or so. The poles are racing toward each other away from the axis of rotation. And we don't want that to cause big climate changes. But it looks like this study, the second article, a magnetic field reversal 42,000 years ago may have contributed to mass extinctions. This looked at, the scientists in New Zealand looked at some trees that were buried, so they could look at they could do carbon dating. They were buried in a swamp, and they dated to this Lechamp excursion, which was 42,000-ish years ago. And they found huge spikes in carbon-14, which is created by cosmic rays hitting the atmosphere. And so the idea here is that these cosmic rays, because our shields were down kind of, like the shields were not full strength, Scotty, that ruined the ozone layer. And so we were bathed in UV light, and caused a whole bunch of climate changes. A big ice age came. It got much colder, the same way it did during the Younger Dryas event 12,000 years ago, which also had a geomagnetic excursion. Anyway, this is just, I don't know how to get, it's such a complicated topic, but one of the things that this article mentions is these handprints. This is red ochre, and cave paintings are written in this red ochre, this red pigment. And one of the things this article points out is that red ochre was the first sunscreen, too, to protect against the UV light during that La Champs excursion when the magnetic field fell to 6% of what it is today. And I just find it fascinating the way that we, looking back at the past, sort of project our own problems onto what happened in the past. So at first, during the World War I and II era, we were saying, oh, humans are so violent, it must be overkill. And we just killed, when humans arrived in North America, we just killed all the animals because we're killing machines. That was the theory. And now that climate change is the big issue, it's climate. And the real issue, I think, is solar electrodynamics. But anyway, the red ochre that they use in these cave paintings here is actually also the first sunscreen. And so this is why people were hiding in caves, covering themselves in red ochre, according to this theory anyway. And so that makes me think about a lot of things. And my haiku, this is a long way to get to it. My haiku for the week is here, thinking about how isolated from the past we are, and how we're sort of blaming the past people. We blame humans for driving the Neanderthals to extinction, and for driving, and then 30,000 years later for driving all these North American megafauna to extinction. And I always feel like they went through a huge cataclysm and survived, and they're the reasons why we're here. And they're blamed for it as if they're murderers. So anyway, this is my haiku. Sorry, that's a long explanation. But my brother's palm on the prison glass, red ochre. My brother's palm on the prison glass, red ochre. That's your haiku for today. Of course, I was thinking about this right here, which is, I think about that all the time. It's like they're the people 40,000 years ago were trying to communicate with us, holding a palm to the glass of time there. And that is my haiku for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. And thanks again, everybody who participated. It's always a pleasure to do these. Let me pull up the... what is the prompt for this week? Oh, yeah, the prompt for this week is, for Tuesday's show, is to write a poem about the road more traveled, as opposed to Frost's The Road Less Traveled. Write a poem about the road more traveled is your prompt for this week. And this week's guest in the Rattlecast is going to be Derek Sheffield. Rattlecast number 81, Tuesday, February 23rd, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. His newest book, Not for Luck, has just came out. A poem from that book is in our winter issue. We're also going to have a special guest, his daughter Zoe, who appeared before him in several issues of the Rattle Young Poets anthology, is going to be joining us too to share a poem, or maybe we can talk her into reading too before we get to Derek. But that is Tuesday night, February 23rd, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Rattlecast number 81 with Derek Sheffield. Hope to see you then, and hope to see you on the open mic afterward. In the meantime, have a good rest of your Sunday. Stay safe and warm, and just have a good one. Take care.